Good morning. Welcome to Guitar Rescue. Today we're going to rescue an amp. I didn't plan on doing a video on this, but as I got into it, I realized that there needs to be a video on this because it's a lot more complicated than you would think. The original plan was to replace the speaker cloth on a Fender Ville amplifier, or 212 amplifier. So I took on that project. The speaker grill has a little teeny ding in it. So I bought this stuff from Fender, and it's the original kind of cloth. Then I started to replace it, and I realized you have to disassemble the entire amplifier in this particular model. And there's no way to sneak it out of there unless you do. So I'm going to show you, hold on. So this started off as a full amplifier with the speakers, the grill, all the electronics, and this is what you have to end up with to get the speaker grill out. So as I assemble it, I'll show you a little more about it. I've already got it disassembled, but there's a couple of things I want to point out. When you're doing this job, there are little teeny screws that hold the screen in, but the screen has to come out the back side. And this middle screw is underneath the Fender DeVille emblem, so you can't see it, and you definitely can't see those when it's all put together. So it's completely disassembled, as you see. You have to even take out the reverb tank, all the electronics. This gives me the opportunity, though, here's the back side. This gives me the opportunity to get it super clean, refurbish that Tolex, and get a new grill in there and make it look really good. So just, my garage is a mess right now working on this. Here's some of the parts that you have to take out. You have to take out the complete electronic system, the reverb, also the speakers, and the grill, and off of that little ding, if you can see that little ding in that grill panel. Okay, so as we go, I will show you more about it as we start working on the actual replacement of the cloth. You have to remove all the staples, which is a full-time job, and then cut it and stretch it and put it back on, and then reassemble this entire thing. So I don't know who thought of this particular design, because it would have been a lot easier to just have a panel on the front where you could unscrew the panel and pull the whole thing off the front, but it didn't work that way. So I specifically wanted to show you that that little screw behind the emblem. You know, the emblem, the DeVille emblem, somewhere I have, there it is. That DeVille emblem is on the top of the amp, and it looks like it's riveted on, but it's actually the teeny weeny little screws that hold that on. So you have to remove that. So I'm going to get back to this as I start reassembling it so you can see how it goes. Hang on. Okay, I'm back. So I'm working on taking the speaker grill apart right now. This has a bajillion industrial type staples that are, you know, probably pneumatically put into the wood. So very difficult to take the staples out. After a lot of research, I found 3 tools that work really well. I have a basic cotter pin puller, or something you could get that has a sharp point like that, and maybe a fulcrum, a bend. I have channel locks and a light mallet of some kind. And because you can't get under these staples with a flathead screwdriver, and even if you do, when you pry it up, half of it comes up and you're still struggling to get the other half. So the trick I learned was you take something like that and you hammer that under the staple so that you can lift the staple up a little bit to get a grip on it. Then you take your channel locks and you use the round side of the channel lock as a fulcrum, and you grab a hold of the staple and you fulcrum it out, and it comes out really, really easy. It's a lot of work because there are a lot of them all over the place, and there's silver staples, and with this particular amp you have the silver face, so you have silver lines inside the cloth hiding the staples. So I'm working on that. I'm going to take the staples out, and then it's going to go into the upholstery department by my quality control manager, aka my wife, to stretch on the fabric to look professional, because that's how she does things. While I'm waiting, while she's working on that, I'm going around and refurbishing the cabinet. So I've already done a lot of work. I've cleaned it really good with like soap and water, mild soap and water. Then I did alcohol. I took off, there were a lot of scrapes and stuff. I'm going around and kind of upgrading it with kiwi leather, black leather dye. I'm going around certain places that need to be covered up, and this covers them perfectly. And then when I'm done, I'll show you the next trick about the vinyl treatment that I'll do on the cabinet. But that's it for now. We're waiting to go into the quality control department to get the fabric. Be right back. Hello, I'm back for a quick update. Okay, so here's the speaker panel. The staples are out of the areas that they need to be. We've gone around and kind of sanded it down, got a little bit to get the glue off the edges, because glue doesn't like to stick to glue. There is a front and a back to this panel, and a top. I marked it. There's a top and a bottom to this panel. And then this is the crummy screen that came off. I don't know if it shows up in the video how crummy this looks, but there's a front and a back to this material too. This is the new one. It's cut to the right size using the old one as a template. And there's a front and a back to this. And the front is where the silver threads are predominant. They're out on the top. So that would be like the front there. You got to look at it and then look at your old one and you can figure it out. But there is a front and a top and a back. And we're going to get rid of this ugly thing. And also this thing, you always smell like tobacco from the previous owner. I think this will help get rid of that odor. So we'll see you as it gets put together. Okay, I'm back real quick. Here's the finished product. There's a million staples in this. I don't think you can see them, but there's a million staples. It's cut, it's stretched, it fits perfectly. Now, my wife, or quality control manager, she did all the measuring, cutting, fitting, but you need 4 hands. So I helped with the muscle part where I was stretching out the fabric where she wanted it stretched, and she went around and stapled it. We didn't use a pneumatic stapler. We used just a manual stapler, big one, and it worked fine, okay? So that's done. So now I'm going to reassemble it. This is the old crummy one. We're going to throw that away now. So now the next step is you have to put this inside the amp from the back side. So it has to have nothing in it when you do that. You can't have the speakers in it. So I'm going to put it in. There's those screws I mentioned. There's 6 screws that go through here and through there, and then nuts go on the other side of it, screws and washers, okay? I bought some yesterday that are a little shorter than the ones that they had because they stuck out a half a mile. It's just a lot of turning. So I got new screws, plus the ones you can see, it will be cleaner. Okay, so you don't have to watch me screw every screw and tighten every nut. So that's step one, 6 screws and nuts into the panel. And then when I get that part done, we will lay the panel down, lay the whole amp down on the face, on the panel side, and set the speakers in there and screw them in. Okay, because they're hard to hold, they're heavy. So if you tried to have it standing up and put speakers in it and screws, it'd be better to lay it down. So as I go along, I'm going to show you each step, but you don't need to watch me tighten screws, I don't think. I think you can do that by yourself. So we'll be right back. Okay, screwing the speakers back in was the easiest part of this job so far. Now we're going to have to put this amp unit in. This thing weighs a ton. I just want to point out, when I first bought this amp originally, one channel was working, the clean channel, the other channels didn't work. So at the time, I replaced all the tubes just for general principles, but I replaced 2 of the capacitors in here. I have a set of upgraded capacitors and a whole kit that you can really upgrade this thing, but it's a whole lot of work. So the capacitors that were leaking, I replaced those. I don't know if you can see, there's 2 black ones here against the gray ones. The gray ones are factory, the black ones are replacement. I did that job originally and got all the channels working. So that job has already been done. I didn't do a video on that. That was early on. Okay, so now we have to install this back in this amp, and this thing weighs a ton. Okay, it's got a lot of stuff on the back that you can't see. So that's the next thing I'm going to do, is install this back in. I'm just going to replace the 6, I think there's 1, 2, maybe 1. I think there's like 6 screws all together that hold that in there. But it's tricky. So wish me luck. And when you're working on these things, you have to be really careful. You need to learn before you start messing with capacitors. These are 500 volt capacitors, and even if it's not plugged in, they can hold a whole lot of voltage, enough to maybe kill you. So you got to make sure that you've got the voltage out of the capacitor before you mess with that. But that's another video. Thanks. I'll be right back. Okay, we're back. So the amp is back in the cabinet. The reverb tank is back in the cabinet. The speakers are now plugged in to the amp. Technically, if I turn this on, I believe it's going to work. But I'm going to take a big chance, and I'm going to put the rest of these panels back on. Just a brief comment that everything inside this amp says Made in USA. Even the sticker inside the amp says Made in USA. But the sticker on the actual outside says Made in Mexico. So I'm sure that they assemble these in Mexico, but these have all American parts in them. So anyway, so the next step is I'm going to put the back panels on, and then I'm going to plug it in. I don't think I forgot to tell you anything. There were 6 screws that hold that amp in, and naturally, one of them is missing. So tomorrow I'll have to run to the hardware store to try to get a matching. It could be around here somewhere. I can't imagine where it would have gone. So I'll look for it first before I go to the hardware store. But we can fire it up without that. So hang on. That's next. Okay, I'm back. Here's the finished product. I'll take a couple pictures and put them in here so you can see it up close and personal. But it's turned on right now. I'm going to talk about it in a minute. But in summary, I wanted to say that as a DIY project, the degree of difficulty of this between 1 and 10 is probably an 8. This is not a simple job. It's heavy. It takes 4 hands in some cases. So, and it doesn't get done in an hour. It's a long-term job. So think about that before you do it. But it's well worth it because the amps, they're expensive, and I love this amp. Real quick, I want to show you. I told you I'd show you what I used on the Tolex to bring back the color after it was cleaned. And so I use that along with a little sponge like you'd use on a tire. So you put the back to black on here and you put it on the Tolex, it comes back to black. It's very pretty. Then we talked about a big stapler manual that we use. It's like this size with 3/8 inch staples. This is the glue that we use to you go around the fold of the speaker grill and you glue that a little at a time, and then you staple it and stretch it. That's where it takes 4 hands. So now I have this amp. This amp is back and it's working. This is a Fender Ville 212, and these are awesome amps, okay? These are powerful amps. They're heavy. They weigh maybe, I don't know, 60 pounds or more. So dragging them to gigs is heavy, but they are awesome amps. The complaint about these for bedroom guitar players is the volume you go from 0. When you go to 1, it's already breaking your windows in your bedroom. So there's a trick to that. There's a master volume and there's a volume on there. That's 2 volumes. But what you do is you add a 3rd volume control. There's a little switch here. I'll take a picture of that you can have made, and it has I think it has a 125 resistor in there, and it's a volume switch. So you can turn up the volumes on your amp and have the amp off with this particular volume. So let's see where we are here. I've got the famous Danacaster out here. I made a video on how I made this guitar. I'll link that to this. Okay, this is this right now. This also has a volume, so we'll get to all these volumes here in a minute. So this, I'm doing it wirelessly right now too. So that's the 3rd volume. That's like, the 3rd volume is barely turned. I mean, it's like a 1/16 of a turn or maybe an 1/8 of a turn. If you turn this whole thing up, you know, you could play Safeco Field or some giant stadium. Okay? So it's all working. It's not an easy job, but it's well worth it. I love this amp. If you're looking for that Fender sound, these amps have it in spades, and they're dynamite. Okay, so there it is. It's all clean. It works good. There's no problems. It's upgraded. The Tolex is clean. The speaker grill is clean. It's almost perfect. You know, it still might have a little teeny nick somewhere in that Tolex, but I also patched that up as best I could. So that's it. I hope you liked the video, and if I missed any information for you, go ahead and mention it in the comments, and I'll try to get that answer for you. And don't forget to check out the Danacaster. This is one awesome guitar. I didn't even get into the different, you know, switches on this guy, all the different sounds. So, but that amp will emphasize all these different sounds that are on this guitar. So that's it for today. Hope to see you in the next video, and thanks for watching.